You guys, so many people are scared of Pluto. They see Pluto in their natal chart and they think, oh my gosh, I'm cursed in this particular sector of life. Or they see that Pluto is going to be transiting this particular house sector. Um, and they think that it's going to bring like destruction and turmoil and loss. And this video is going to uh, enlighten you to see Pluto as one of the most transformative powers in our astrology charts that indicate where in your life you're going to experience the most transformation in order to gain the most power in that particular life sector. So it's not in your chart as a hindrance to hold you back and have disappointment after disappointment. It's actually in your chart to show you where, on a soul level, you wanted to grow and evolve the most to acquire a greater level of leadership and power in that particular area of life. You know, for some of you it's the first house, for some of you it's the fourth house, but it's really a placement to suggest when you are on your deathbed and you look back at your life, where Pluto was can show you where your greatest gift, your greatest amount of gold may have lied. So again, nothing to be scared of. I'm going to be highlighting for each house sector where the transformative gifts of Pluto lie and how to navigate the challenges that will arise in order for you to get to the rainbow on the other side of the storm, so to speak. And so for this particular video, you do need to know your natal Pluto house placement, and then you can just simply jump ahead to the timestamp. And then if you know the house placement of Pluto in, let's say, your child or your significant other, watch that one too, because it's going to be really enlightening for you to understand one of the primary core reasons for their incarnation is to grow and evolve, transform, and power up in that particular sector of life. And if you want to take it a step further, you can even watch Pluto through the houses if you know which house Pluto is transiting for you right now, because that's going to show you, okay, well, how is your life going to be inevitably going through a transformation and helping you grow and evolve into a greater version of yourself in which category of life. That's going to be dependent on which house it's actually transiting right now. Okay, you guys, I'm taking a quick break from the video to spotlight a very special guest. This year is my pal Suggy. He's an 8.5-year-old Pomeranian, and the reason I call him Suggy is it's actually short for his full name, Sugilite, because that's how much I love crystals. I named my dog after a rare gemstone found in Japan. But why I felt inspired to actually bring him on and even talk about my love of gemstones for a quick minute here is that I recently received in the mail my beautiful turquoise authentic gemstone necklace from an amazing family-run company called Otter Spirit. And I certainly don't do collaborations or sponsorships with any old company, and not, you know, something that I don't personally have a love or affinity already to. And so when they approached me and said, hey, would you be interested in one of our necklaces? I said, absolutely, yes, I would, because believe it or not, in another chapter of life, I used to work as a Reiki practitioner and certified crystal healer. So I actually literally had a healing practice involving gemstones. That's how much I believe in the metaphysical powers of them. And so when they said I could have my pick, I decided to go for the turquoise, because being a YouTuber and sharing all of this astrology content, I need that open throat chakra. And turquoise is good for many things beyond just the throat chakra and talking, but that's the particular attribute that pulled to me. And one other reason I really love it is it's actually heavy, like you can feel the weight of it. And so there's even a grounding effect of wearing it. And so some things I wanted to spotlight about this amazing company are, so there's three standout reasons why I actually love this company. And one is that there's probably four reasons. One is that it's a family run company. You know, it's not this like giant conglomerate, but it's people with heart who have a passion for healing gemstones, and they actually donate $1 of every purchase to a conservation fund to help sea otters, like, you know, those cute little guys in the water who hold their babies on their tummies, that they're donating to that cause. So talk about a worthy cause. And also they do a rigorous process of ensuring all of their gems are actually high quality. Actually over 80% of all of them are going to be rated AAA, and all of them will be minimum an A plus, but the majority are going to be ranking super hard on the Mohs hard scale, and that ensures you're not going to drop your necklace and it break all over the floor. And one more thing that I absolutely love about them is that if you order your necklace and or your bracelet and you're like, oh, I don't know if this was the one for me, maybe I wanted to get a different one, you can return it for a free exchange, and you even have a 2-year warranty on your purchase. So I mean, what company offers that? Like you're not going to find that. And so for those of you who are interested in there and you're like, oh, I want to get one of these, for me it was between the turquoise and the black tourmaline. I love that as well. Black tourmaline is amazing for protecting you from electromagnetic frequencies. And if you work around electronics a lot, it's a really good one. But I actually have a coupon code that's going to save my community a substantial discount on any of your purchases. So I'm going to link it in the show notes. Be sure to use that and share the word with your friends, because who doesn't want to have, crystal healing jewelry, crystal healing jewelry. So I love you guys, and let's get back to the show. Welcome back to the show. If we're just meeting, my name is Nicole. For some of you, you probably know me as Christine, but I recently legally changed my name to go by my middle name. So sorry about the confusion. But anyways, if we're just meeting, I'm a professional astrologer. And if you're interested in a private reading with me, whether it be a live one-on-one for 90 minutes or even a pre-recorded 60-minute session, you can check out the show notes and see details about those offerings. I am Mercury in Virgo, and so I really go deep. And there, I always say there's no stone unturned when I'm looking at someone's natal or their transits, their secondary progressed, you name it. And you can submit questions if you want me to dial in specifically on a topic or a theme, whether it be love or relationships, career, purpose, money, healing in general. And yeah, so check out the show notes if that appeals to you. You can also check out past client testimonials if you're curious which offering is the one best suited for you. And other than that, real quick, I'm just going to spotlight that I am the founder and formulator of Body Cherish High Vibration Skincare. It's been up and running. This coming November will be 10 years. And it's a result of me having this desire to have an easy skincare routine specifically for my face, and to do something that wasn't going to cost an arm and a leg and still made with high vibration ingredients. And the more natural you go in terms of, organic essential oils instead of fragrances, and, natural carrier oils, by default, the higher the frequency the product is going to be. And not only that, I add crystal essences that I prepare, gemstone essences. They're prepared in a similar way that flower essences would be prepared, if you're familiar with that. So you also get the metaphysical healing properties of different varieties of gemstones in the actual facial care products, which is super cool in my opinion. And I also infuse all of the recipes with Reiki. In another chapter of life, I used to work as an energy healer. And before that, I used to work as a physiologist in healthcare. And so I kind of took the science and the woo-woo and I mixed them together with my Body Cherish skincare line. And so if you're curious about that, in the show notes, I also have a link as well as a promo code called AstroLove20, and it will save my YouTube astrology community 20% off any of the skincare, the facial ritual kit, the duo. Those are the number one selling products, and they're already discounted because they're bundled. And then you get a 20% discount code just for the YouTube community on top of that. And so it's truly a steal of a deal. Okay, now let's get back to the show. So I'm going to start with Pluto in the 8th house. We're not going to go 1 through 12. We're going to go 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, then 1 through 7. And the reason I'm starting with this deep dive analysis of Pluto in the 8th is because that's where Pluto is at home. Pluto is the natural celestial body connected to the 8th house. So Pluto is already all about transformation. The 8th house is literally all about transformation. So this is like Plutonian energy on steroids if it happens to be transiting your 8th house or in your birth chart in your 8th house. So when I do someone's astrology reading, if I see that they have Pluto in the 8th house, immediately I am going to think to myself, this person came here with such a deep desire to go through evolution, with such a deep desire to grow and evolve into, probably, several times the experience of going from caterpillar to butterfly. Caterpillar dissolves into goop in that chrysalis, and then it comes out a butterfly. And someone with, Pluto transiting the 8th, or especially with it in the birth chart in the 8th, you likely are going to look back on your life and be like, wow, I'm a totally different person in my 50s than I was in my 40s. And in your 40s, you thought I'm a totally different person in my 40s than my 30s. And that's just like literally going to be your whole life. And it's a good thing though, because who wants a stagnant life? Who wants to feel like they're decaying? Not you. You signed up for the growth and evolution incarnation, and some particular areas that you'll notice a lot of that transformation connected to. Um, well, it could be pertaining to your intimacy. It could be related to how you have intimacy with the other. There's a variety of ways I'm going to describe this, but one could be earlier in life you didn't have um, much capacity to actually cultivate a deep intimacy with your romantic partner, but through whatever Pluto energy has you come face to face with, there's going to be a transformation that's going to allow you to connect to a deeper layer of your own soul. And when you're able to do that, you're then able to connect to a deeper level with the other. You know, we can only meet the other at the level and depth we're able to meet ourselves. And so when Pluto is in the eighth house, there likely was in earlier life a feeling of being disconnected from you and you, or feeling like there's parts of you that you've exiled off or fragmented off. You may have had formative, wounding that impacted you or made you feel traumatized in a certain area. Even, you know sex is also part of the eighth house, so sometimes someone could have had even trauma related to sex, or something happening that was like a betrayal between them and someone in their life that they were supposed to be able to trust. But so I know that sounds pretty heavy, but think about that. Like, if Pluto wants you to transform and grow immense power and evolution in this sector, the soul learns through opposites. So it's almost like the soul learns what it means to actually have that sacred union, that sacred emotional intimacy, that sacred even sexual intimacy with other. But first it almost experiences the opposite of that. And through your own journey of healing and integrating fractured or fragmented off parts of yourself, or shame or rejection of the sexual side of self, as you integrate that, you see that you're coming into union more with yourself. And so someone with this placement, if they ever have had any difficult experiences in those topics in formative years or even like younger adulthood, they also have the energy capacity to experience at some point in their life like extremely healthy intimacy, extremely healthy, sacred sexual liberation, and really reclaiming their sensuality, and not from a place of it feeling like it's being taken away or it's transactional, but really from a place of like autonomy and your choice. So it's not always an easy path to get there, but when you are there through whatever you faced, it's a power like no other. So that's one way Pluto in the eighth house can show up. But another way can be a lot to do with the way you receive money through resources from others. So this can be a very powerful placement that can power up one's money story, because it's on the money axis, the second to the eighth house. And so this can be that you go through a variety of iterations in terms of the way in which you make money. And yes, it's true. Sometimes Pluto can bring a transformation by coming in like a wrecking ball, needing to almost like to like break down the old to make space to rebuild the new. So if you have Pluto in the eighth, you certainly can make a lot of money in different kinds of ways, like dividends or an inheritance, or a large settlement in like a court case, or spousal support, or even something different, like let's say YouTube ad revenue. Money coming from other people can have a powerful influence in your life, but you may experience a phase, because again, it's transformation of feeling almost like a loss or an insecurity in funds in joint enterprise. Like maybe you at some point in your earlier years did a joint enterprise and you went into business and you lost the business with the other. That's not to say that Pluto's going to keep you in this like desperate place to do with joint resources and money from others. It's to say that you're going to learn valuable lessons and knowledge and wisdom because of whatever happens that will only power you up to make wiser, more discerning choices that will inevitably bring you greater success and greater abundance in that category of life. And Pluto here, you know, there's also an affinity likely to those deeper metaphysical topics, the occult, the mysteries of life, like wanting to explore the psyche, the subconscious mind. And so you could even become someone who, through whatever you had to navigate and the shadows you had to face and integrate in your own life, it powers you up to be able to be a powerful leader or counselor or teacher to help others on a similar journey, because you have walked that path and come out the other side a more, like with a more fortified vessel. So this isn't a placement for the faint of heart, but it is a placement that's inevitably going to give you a lot of power in the above stated categories. And so share in the comments what has gone on for you. Is it in your natal in the eighth house, or is it transiting through right now? We would love to hear. Give us some real life examples. And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends, and even joining the newsletter. Okay, so if you have Pluto in the ninth house, and this is going to be true if it's in your birth natal in the ninth house, and some of these descriptions will be true if it's actually also transiting your ninth house. So Pluto in the ninth, you signed up in this incarnation to have immense transformation regarding your relationship with seeking, acquiring, and coming to know higher truth, or your version of what God is, creator, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And likely there almost has to be a process of dissolving or letting go of what you first thought was true, or whatever was maybe like imposed on you as true, but you had to break free and realize, well, that's not true for me. I have my own view of spirituality or my own view of religion, because the ninth house is so much to do with our higher philosophical vantage point, our coming to truth, our coming to understand the cosmos. But for some people, it'll be through the Bible. For some people, it'll be through astrology. For some people, it'll be through meditating, So because Pluto is bringing transformation to this, you may go through multiple iterations of what the meaning of life actually is or why we're here. You might go through, especially in formative years, maybe even like a crisis of values of like, well, what do I believe in? Maybe I'm an atheist, or maybe I'm agnostic, or maybe I am very spiritual. You could go through a multitude of those things. You could grow up in a religious family and it felt like it was really imposed on you, and later in life you have to kind of break free and decide your own version of what God is. But this is also connected to higher learning, what you're wanting to learn about and even teach about, and one day even publish. So you might find that you're drawn to like, through what you're learning about, reading about, studying about, go so far with it that you even want to acquire somewhat of like a leadership position in that, and that you want to actually teach about it. You want to actually broadcast it out. You want to write it and publish it and put it in a book. Pluto in the ninth is an excellent placement for someone who has it, in their soul map to publish something. It has a power and empowering energy of notoriety in the publishing sector, in the teaching sector. So not just learning something for your personal interest, but Pluto in the ninth says you can learn it and then take it further where you're positioned as somewhat of an authority on that topic. And this also empowers you if you have a desire to work in any capacity in the judicial system. You might be someone who had even like something that felt like an injustice done to you, and that's the thing that inspired you and transformed you, and in a way triggered the transmutation of pain to purpose, where you want to be an advocate, you want to fight for the underdog, you want to lead in some way to help something in the name of justice, because justice is, the judicial system is connected here. So you could be someone who decides to work as a lawyer or a mediator or an advocate or a judge, but you likely are a pretty spiritual person, and sometimes spiritual people don't end up in those professions, or they do and then they change professions altogether. So, share in the comments, how is this showing up for you? And is it in your birth natal chart? If it is, this is a long-standing energy. It's your whole life. And if it is in you, I should actually also touch on the long distance, the foreign travel. Certainly someone who can do something that would even position them on a global scale. So you could be connected to something, some way that puts you in a power, a position of leadership that even puts you into a scenario where you're long distance traveling. Like maybe you become a public speaker and you actually fly to different countries to do your speaking gig, or you publish that book and then you go on a book tour. Like that is such a Pluto in the ninth house placement. And if it's not so much from that lens, it could just be that you maybe at one version of yourself were timid or retracted to break out and do long distance travel, and then you grow confidence. Like it transforms you to become someone who's like, screw it, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to even fly by myself to the other side of the world and do a 2-month excursion in Africa. Like that's one way you can also gain power in the ninth house. It doesn't necessarily have to be the previous way. So again, share in the comments, how has this showed up for you? What do you suspect is coming down the pipe? Is it part of your natal placement, or is it a transit that you're going through? We would love to hear. And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with a friend, and even joining the newsletter. Okay, if you have Pluto in the 10th house, whether it's in your birth natal chart in the 10th, or even if you're aware that it's moving through the 10th in a transit, this is so awesome. The 10th house is everything connected to career, life, legacy, what you're known for doing in the world, even like the public perception of you. And so without a doubt, you have a placement that's gonna, in a way, guarantee a level of notoriety about that thing you do. So if you're in a career and you're at that like earlier phase of life, you have a placement that will allow you to climb up the corporate ladder and certainly ascend to a place of leadership and authority. So like managerial role, this is an excellent placement if entrepreneurship is on your heart, because you can definitely, Pluto's going to transform your career sector inevitably. So one thing to keep in mind with this is, if it ever feels like there's a loss experienced in career or the nature of the work you do, or a setback, know that it's like you got to zoom out and see the forest from the trees. It's not just like, oh, a challenging loss, or why did I get fired, or blah blah blah. It's like, what was holding you back and not allowing you to reach an even higher level of your destiny by staying working as an employee under that boss? What if the loss or the change or whatever feels like, I wasn't ready for that change, or I didn't want to go through that transformation? What if that's the very thing that was needed to grow you and evolve you, and in a way get out of your own way so that you could do something above and beyond what you were even doing? So if you don't like what you do, you have to listen to that. What's your intuition saying? Like, can you honor the nudge and move closer toward what your intuition is guiding you to do? I call it trusting the breadcrumb trail. You don't have to know A to Z. Even if you only know A, trust that when you do A, suddenly B and C will be illuminated. And so, I would highly doubt a Pluto in the 10th has the same job from 22 to retirement. You're likely going to go through multiple iterations of the nature of the career you do, and not just changing from, one employer to the next, but the actual career itself could be like, maybe in your earlier years, you were a nurse. And then in your later years, you're doing a completely different profession that's nothing connected to what you did in university, but yet you still rise up and can excel in it. And again, gain a level of notoriety and leadership. And this can also be someone who has like a strong level of matriarch or patriarch within their family unit, because it's also life legacy. So are you the person who grows it up into like the grandparent, and you really are the glue that keeps the family together, that brings everyone together at Christmas, that brings everyone together at the holidays? And if it wasn't for you, the family wouldn't be as close as it is. Like, you really are that matriarch or patriarch. That's certainly Pluto in the 10th if the career description isn't hitting the mark so much for you. So share in the comments, how is this showing up for you? Give us some examples. We would love to hear. And is it in your natal 10th, or is it transiting your 10th? And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with a friend, and even joining the newsletter. Okay, so if you have Pluto in the 11th, whether it's in your birth natal chart in your 11th house or even transiting your 11th house, this is going to be how you're going to transform, how you're going to power up, how you're even going to gain a stronger level of leadership. So with the 11th house, it's so much connected to the greater group, the friends, the network, the organization, the alliance. So Pluto, if you watch the beginning part of the video, is going to show us where you have capacity to really grow and evolve, and so much so that you acquire a greater level of power and leadership. So this placement suggests that you can be very influential within your peers, that you can be almost like the person who creates the group, creates the organization, creates the gathering, and people can even look up to you in a way of respect and trust, or like you know what you're doing. This is a powerful placement to suggest that you could even create a charity, a foundation, something that's going to bring people together, and you know, you would be respected in the role you hold, that people would be willing to follow your direction, your leadership. But how did you end up being able to do that? It's like, what did Pluto force you to face and transform that triggered growth and evolution so that you could become powerful in this way? So that you could become a leader to others in this way? Well, there could have been phases in your life, particularly in formative years, where you felt almost like disempowered within the group, within the organization, where maybe you saw things were being done in a sense of like, well, that's not right, or it shouldn't be done this way, or maybe in a way you felt excluded, or you didn't even fit in. I mean, that's part of the Chiron placement here as well, and it can even be part of how Saturn shows up in the 11th. But another way we could look at this is, you could have had one group or affiliation or network, and because of your own personal growth and evolution, you find that here you are now part of like a different group, part of a different organization. Like maybe you grew up and you were very, very much part of like this societal norm culture, and now here you are and it's totally different. But then 10 years later, you're now part of this group or this collective or this ideology, and that's totally different. But each time there's a transformation, you are able to maintain a sense of um, confidence, and I'm going to use the word leadership again, of like almost like you're not the follower within it. Like you might be the one like leading the charge or bringing the new initiative to the group. And this is also connected to the house of hopes, dreams, and wishes being fulfilled. So you have the power, literally with Pluto, Plutonian power, to, in a way, have the Midas touch. If you have a bigger vision, an ideal scenario you want to bring forth to the world, to the group, to the collective, Pluto here gives you the Midas touch to actually have it go wide and go far and be successful. And so really, really cool. It is possible with this placement, because it is even connected to older sibling, that there could have been like power struggles or power plays between you and your older sibling. But again, it's like, what did you learn through that struggle? How did it power you up? How did you clarify a better way to communicate? How did you figure out how to like hold a boundary that was honoring your needs within the relationship dynamic? You know, it is possible to have relationship challenges with Pluto here, but it's always to learn from. It's like, okay, well, I didn't like how I responded, so I'm going to try and do better next time. Or I didn't like how they treated me, so I'm going to learn how to put down stronger boundaries next time. So share in the comments, how's this showing up for you? Is it in your natal, or is it a transit right now? Is it moving through? It's going to be most notable, especially if it's in your natal placement, because you're always carrying that energy with you. And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with a friend, and even joining the newsletter. Okay, so if you have Pluto in the 12th house in your birth natal chart, or if you happen to know it's transiting the 12th house right now, this is a deep dive, a deep transformation into, I'm going to say, like the deep recesses of your mind, the subconscious, where things have been tucked away that you didn't even know that they were. You know, the 12th house is very much connected to where we go to, connect within. And at times we can feel even away from the outside world. Like it's a very introspective place. It's known as like rest and recovery. And at times it can feel like you're on exile, or like, has God put me on a timeout? What's going on here? Um, so when we have Pluto there, your relationship with your like deep subconscious, your relationship with your soul self, with your higher self, is going to go through transformation in this lifetime. And you might at times feel, or have felt, was I forgotten about? Or you might at times have come to know the feeling of depression, or I don't know, that this sense of like isolation. Or maybe you even pondered something like atheism at a certain point in time, because Pluto's giving you power in this category. So immense power and wisdom and leadership for you to come to know your truth, for you to come to know your higher self. Um, but it's almost like you in a way learn through opposites. So you might in earlier years have felt a disconnection from what your truth is, or your higher self, or this disconnect from your spiritual life. But through whatever the depths of that dark night of the soul was or has been, it's almost like the step that somehow broke you open to believe in something more, to connect in something more. And then you end up being so grateful for that. You're like, you can look back and be like, I see why I had to go through that dark night of the soul, because look who I am now after going through the death and rebirth cycle. Pluto in the 12th house is very much capturing this death and rebirth cycle. There's similar elements to the 8th house, in that you'll feel like the caterpillar going into the chrysalis, coming out a butterfly. And with this, there might be, even a natural inclination or draw to do things like astral travel or shamanic journeys, where you're like really connecting with the spiritual realm. On a very specific description, you could be someone who works with exotic animals, or does a certain kind of long distance travel that would connect you to these exotic species. I know that's going to be so specific for only a few, but it is in there. This could be Pluto in the 12th, could even be in someone's chart who at some point in their life has to go to the hospital for a health crisis, or even to the penitentiary, like jail. But something about those experiences truly transform you, transform the fabric of how you are. It changes your paradigm. You see the world differently afterwards, and you're never the same. And that's a way it could have transformed you, because those particular institutions are connected to the 12th house. If it's transiting your 12th house, that could be a phase in which you did do serve your time. So share in the comments, how have you felt this has showed up in your life? Is it in your natal 12th, or is it in your transit? And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with a friend, and even joining the newsletter. Okay, if you have Pluto in the first house, whether it's in your birth natal chart, or even if you're aware that it's transiting your first house, oh, you guys, I attract so many people into my life, into my astrology readings, many of my friends, and they all have Pluto in their first house. And this is an incarnation where your soul signed up to say, like, I want to be on the growth and evolution train. I want to almost be constantly evolving into the next version of myself. It can be such a transformative journey, because the first house is your persona, your relationship with you and you, your identity, your belief systems. It's everything from these like deeper levels of what make you you, to even like, what's your aesthetic, how do you dress, what are you interested in, right? So when you have Pluto in the first, you're going to look back on your life and feel like it's just been constantly transforming. Like who you were at 10 was different than who you were at 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Like just you're always evolving into these different iterations of you, and having different interests come forth. And you might be like really passionate about like learning about this like new diet or lifestyle, and then you implement that, and that's helping you become your greater version, because again, Pluto is powering you up in this first house sector. But yeah, Pluto sometimes goes about the power up and the transformation in a way that at the time can feel uncomfortable. So an example of this would be experiencing health challenges, experiencing a health crisis, and then having to figure out what part of your lifestyle has to shift or change so that you can be your most vibrant. So someone with Pluto in the first could be someone who's had an addiction and then has to grow and evolve and then become someone who doesn't have the addiction, but then who you are on the other side of that is an even better version had you not experienced the addiction or had you not experienced the health crisis or the setback. So, I shared in another segment, Pluto transforms. Sometimes it can feel like it's coming in like a wrecking ball. Like, okay, we have a house, the house needs some repairs. We want to do it kind of slowly and methodically, but Pluto might be like, hey, well, let's get it done now. And so sometimes it can feel like an abrupt challenge, like thus the experience of like health crisis or whatever the setback is. But that just means there's a faster trajectory of how quick you can then go through the transformation to have the renovated house, the remodeled version of you feeling your best, looking your best, thinking your best. A lot of this is to do with even your own paradigm, your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, your assumptions about how life operates for you. So there could be a phase of your life where you felt negative or pessimistic. And then lo and behold, Pluto helps you transform and remodel your mindset to have this greater self concept and belief that life is working out for you. You might, go from someone who's like thinking the glass is half empty, and then you stumble upon Neville Goddard teachings, and you're like, wow, it's all me. I have the power to determine how this ship goes. I'm going to master my thoughts. I'm going to master what I'm assuming takes place, knowing that's actually creating the fabric of what's unfolding. So all in all, it's a good place to have Pluto. You can certainly become your best self with this. And if it's just transiting, not in your like natal, you're going to finish the transit with the ample opportunity to have a glow up on an internal state as well as an exterior state. So you might be annoyed at me because you could be in like one of the crisis energies of it right now, but don't be annoyed at me. Like trust and know that there is a rainbow on the other side of it, and sometimes it's hard to see it, but it's like a willingness to zoom out and see the forest from the trees and see that there could be a reason for what's unfolding to actually power you up for your benefit in some way. So share in the comments. Please share any stories, any examples of how this is influencing you. Is it in your natal? Is it doing a transit? And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with a friend, and even joining the newsletter. Okay, so if you have Pluto in the second house, and this is true if it's in your natal birth chart in the second, or if you know if it's even transiting the second house, which by the way, guys, I just have to acknowledge, I don't know if you can see him there. Little Suggy, he's so cute. Anyways, what does this mean for you? So you're going to have transformation in the nature of how you draw in money, how you receive resources, what you do for resources definitely will transform. What you do for work will likely also transform because that's how most people make money, right? But what's really cool is with this placement, you have immense power in how much money and resources in your lifetime you'll be able to actually attract to you. And there's other aspects of the second house I'm going to get into a lot connected to your value within yourself, like how you value your self-esteem. We'll talk about that momentarily. But while we're on the topic of money, Pluto energy doesn't just give the gift of a money glow up or the salary raise or making a lot more money. Pluto energy requires us to go through some sort of transformation to become the person who can earn and receive higher levels of money. And so, with that said, it's not uncommon to have felt struggle or even loss of money in order to get to the point where you learned what you needed to learn, you grew in the way you needed to grow, you evolved in the way you needed to evolve so that you can be this leader in your own life in terms of how much money you make. So maybe part of the transformation was losing a job and then feeling like you didn't have enough money, or feeling the scarcity, or growing up in a family where money was always tight and there was never enough. Like that in itself can be part of the transformation because it was the catalyst, it was the trigger of knowing what it feels like to be in lack, knowing what it feels like to be in scarcity, and making a powerful leadership decision in your own life to say, I don't want to raise my family that way. I want to raise my family where I can say yes to the kids getting new winter coats. I want to raise my family to be able to take them on a family vacation once a year. So you see how becoming committed to doing what you need to do to make more money usually comes from the experience of the opposite of knowing what it feels like to be without. So it's not to say that you will have always felt abundant with this placement. You'll likely, most certainly, have the encounters of the lack, but it's there to help you launch the rocket of desire, as Abraham Hicks would call it, in the direction of being abundant, and then fortifying you, powering you up with becoming the kind of person who's going to go out in the world and do what they need to do to receive, to make, to generate more money. And another aspect of the second house where you're going to experience this transformative energy, it's on your relationship with you in terms of how you value yourself. Second house is connected to what we value, even putting money on, what we value for possessions, but it's also our personal value. So if you've struggled with like not enoughness, or don't see yourself as valuable or worth treating yourself in a way that reflects being valuable, that is going to go through transformation in your lifetime. So you could be someone who starts off with a lower self-esteem, who puts their self-care on the back burner, who never invests in certain X, Y, or Z that would actually help them feel better because of lack of holding yourself in higher regard. But Pluto here says, no, in this lifetime, you get to transform that. You get to actually see yourself as a valuable person. You get to put yourself in higher regard. You get to, let's say you, I guess an easy example would be to become someone who's even willing to like invest money in themselves, and because you're seeing yourself as a valuable investment. So let's say you used to, or you grew up eating a lot of like processed canned food, whatever's cheapest at the grocery store. One way you could go through a transformation is being like, oh, I value myself so much, or I'm learning to value myself so much that I want to treat my body like a temple, and I'm going to start buying, yes, it's more expensive, but more nutritious food, because that's a reflection of where I'm willing to invest money. Because of, like some people, they'll spend money on a designer purse before the investments that will help their body feel more vital, because even the food we put into our body can be connected to the second house. So there's going to be an elevation in your lifetime pertaining to your self-esteem. But to get there, you will likely go through phases and iterations where you're living life in a way that's reflecting you don't have high self-esteem, or you don't think you're worthy of certain actions and decisions and investments that reflect that high self-esteem. So I'd recommend, if you're experiencing the lower self-esteem right now, listen to subliminals on YouTube. You can listen to subliminals for anything and everything. I listen to them every day. They have changed my life. I'm thinking of making my own subliminals on a secondary channel I'm in the midst of developing. But where I'm going with this is listen to them on self-concept, and you'll start noticing your life rearranging itself. That's reflecting you see yourself as not just enough, but more than enough. And it's interesting because making more money can then sometimes come as a byproduct of you being an embodiment of someone who thinks they're valuable. And you see how then there's a domino effect of, yeah, I deserve to receive more because I think I'm valuable. So share in the comments, how is this showing up for you? Is it in your natal chart? Is it a transit? And give us some examples. We'd love to hear. And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with a friend, and even joining the newsletter. Okay, so if you have Pluto in your third house for your birth natal chart, or even your transits, if you're familiar with where your transits are going, Pluto in the third, this is a transformative journey about the way in which you communicate, how you communicate, what you communicate on. It's a transformative journey with even what you're drawn to learn about, what's going to be stimulating your mind to, do further study and education on, but even what you're then going to be drawn to teach. So it's almost like a lifelong experience of being an avid learner And then a byproduct of what you're learning about is you're going to feel inspired to maybe even teach or speak or communicate on the very thing you're learning about, but you're able to gain power and leadership in that domain of life. So you may be someone who were always interested in X, Y, or Z, and you thought that that would be kind of like the thing you talk about, the thing you communicate about, but you might surprise yourself and throw yourself a curveball, and then you go back to school or you do like a trade specific study and you become an astrologer or you do something that certainly wasn't what you were learning about in your formative years. And I'm just sorry. I just had a reflection because even though Pluto is in my fourth house in Placidus, it is in my third house in whole sign. And I'm like, oh yeah, that rings true for me because I went to university to really learn science like physiology. I became an exercise physiologist, injury rehab. And I never in a million years thought I'd get into all the things I ended up getting into after my Saturn returns. Like becoming an entrepreneur. Never in a million years I thought I'd do that. Become an astrologer. Never in a million years. Like the list goes on and on and on. And so, wow, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. But then even that element of communication. So I predict that a lot of Pluto in the third, there was at a certain phase of life, particularly formative years, family of origin, perhaps the way in which communication took place was at a lesser evolved state. But part of your soul incarnation is to come in and change that by you growing and evolving and learning how to consciously respond, learning how to listen, learning how to communicate in a non reactive, unconscious way. That can be a big part of this. But it's not to say you haven't had to face your own shadows and your own skeletons in the closet about the phases of your life where you have communicated in more of an unconscious way from how mom and dad did, and then you learn, and one step at a time you become a better version of yourself, right? And this can even indicate power struggles with siblings or even like family members, like more relatives, cousins, aunts, and uncles. But particularly when Pluto's in the third, there could have been like bumping of heads between you and your siblings growing up, because Pluto energy can sometimes have this like oppositional energy with other, and it's like Pluto trying to help you find your intrinsic power, and ideally finding it in a healthy way, but having to probably go through road bumps in discerning, well, what is the healthy way? What is honoring a boundary? What's honoring diplomacy and harmony as well, So some of that energy is going to be true. And also you could just have transformation in terms of like, or new versions of what you're drawn to do for short distance travel, or changes and transformations taking place in your little neighborhood, or moving multiple times within your neighborhood. Those could be parts of this too. So yeah, share in the comments, like, how is this showing up for you? Is it in your natal or is it in your transits? And keep in mind, this is where you ultimately can acquire more power. So if there's things that you deep down inside want to do in your life, but you're timid to do, but they involve communication in some regard, like, just know you have the power, like, in your chart to help you broadcast and communicate at a greater level, at a level that even indicates leadership. So really a powerful placement if you're someone who ends up building a website, building a podcast, building a YouTube channel. Those are powerful things you could do. Speak on stage even. So yeah, share in the comments. We would love to hear. And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with a friend, and even subscribing to the newsletter or to the channel. But I think I already said the channel. Anyways, that's my okay. Pluto in the fourth house. You guys, I got a sensitive spot for you because I share this placement, at least I do in my Placidus chart. In my whole sign, it's still back in my third. But if you have your natal Pluto placement in the fourth, or, there's going to be aspects of truth to this if it's transiting your fourth. But really, really, I have a soft spot for you guys if it's in your natal fourth, because if there is a more difficult placement for Pluto to be, it is in the fourth. And this is because the fourth is our foundation of our chart. It's generational. This is the lineage. This is the formative years. This is growing up in your household, what was happening with you and your mom, with you and your dad. And when we have such a transformative power player in our chart impacting us at such a foundational way of everything that's going to like come from our life because of our family of origin and how we grow up, it can suggest that you went through immense transformation already as a young child, or encountered dynamics that had a pretty intense like power struggle where it could have felt like even conflict at the home, or like mom and dad weren't getting along, or you and your parents weren't getting along, or um, almost like an imbalance of how power was exerted in the home. And part of what you would have encountered, like, yeah, like for some people, this can have even like an abusive situation take place in their home, or they witnessed abusive scenarios in their home. Because keep in mind, like, this is a generational, this is foundational, this is lineage placement in your chart. So whatever you encountered or saw or experienced on a soul level, you incarnated with Pluto in this house because you wanted to be the change maker, the pattern breaker to the pattern, to the dysfunction. So this is far beyond just your lifetime. This is like going and changing the lineage who's coming after you by who you choose to grow and evolve and become by evidence of the way you live and lead your life. So you would have seen examples of what you don't want to be or what you don't want to pass on. And then you'll be given the challenge to grow into the person who can consciously respond. You know, practice emotional intelligence will be a big part of this versus that like unconscious reacting. And, you know, it's so easy for the parent to pass on what their parent did to them, what their parent did to them, and so on and so forth. But when you have Pluto here in the fourth, it's saying, no, you wanted whatever the dysfunction was to actually end at you. And it's not to say that you're going to turn 18 and be this like perfect evolved version different from what you experienced. You likely will have residue that you're on an ongoing journey of healing deeper levels of the onion. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of Pluto in the fourth have had failed relationships earlier in life, or already experienced a divorce before coming into the more evolved union, because that's how you learn and grow. It's usually through the relationship, not just sitting on a meditation cushion, but learning what to do different next time, learning and understanding, oh, what was part of the pattern in that last one, and how can I be different, and what needs to be cleaned up in my own backyard to even attract a different dynamic to me. So there's going to be transformation also on like deep subconscious imprints, what you inherited, belief systems, and you're going to be on an evolutionary journey of seeing what can be let go of, seeing what is a belief that is inherited that isn't even yours, and you laying the new foundational blueprint. And then you, if you have children, wow, like you empowering them and raising them in a totally different way. So really powerful, really transformational, but it's like not for the faint of heart placement, because, you know, 9.5 times out of 10, you probably had a pretty, you know, intense childhood, but you also get the blessing on the other side of it of being able to be this pattern breaker and then create this family, this foundation. And even if you choose not to have kids, creating this evolved home environment that is anchored in peace. And almost like that's how you gain your leadership. That's how you get your power up, is having a home be a safe haven for you and your loved ones, even if it's just your pets. So share in the comments, what are your thoughts? How is this showing up for you, especially for you natal Plutos? We would love to hear. And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with a friend, and even joining the newsletter. Okay, Pluto in the fifth house. If this is landing in your natal fifth house, or if you're even familiar with your transits, Pluto could be transiting your fifth house. So what does this mean for you? So the fifth house is so much connected to all things good, actually. Pleasures, creativity, passion, the spark of that new thing pulling you to invest your time into it. So yeah, it can be the passion, pursuit, the creative hobby, but it can also be the spark of new romance. It can be the love affair. It can be children and that childlike joy of life. So a lot of awesome things are part of the fifth house. But when we have Pluto in the fifth house, it's saying those categories of life are going through a transformation. And ultimately, you can gain power and leadership in those areas. But what is the path you're going to encounter in order to have a glow up in that area, so to speak? So it's not uncommon that a Pluto in the fifth will have multiple iterations and versions of what they feel creative or passionate about. You know, they were once into something in their teenager years, and then they're into something totally different in their adult years, and it's totally different in their twilight years. Yes, that's possible. Another example of this is maybe in a way feeling disempowered to some extent with your ability to submerge yourself in your creative pursuits, in the things that brought you joy, in those things that felt like permission to be a child, even. And so, almost like the hardship or the difficulty of that is what served as the trigger or the catalyst for later in life when you're more in like sovereign control over your life to being like, no, I do get to do what I want to do. I do get to put my time and energy into something that I actually enjoy, that brings me happiness, that, you know, maybe it's not what mom and dad wanted me to do, but it's what I want to do. So part of you gaining power in that category and devoting yourself to go further in those categories could have been even feeling the restriction of not being able to earlier in life. And it could even be that you're someone who's destined, like new enterprise can even be part of the fifth house, like taking that thing you're interested in, that passion so far that it becomes your career. You could do this multiple times in your life. You could go really far in that sport you're deeply passionate about and become a professional athlete. There you go, powering up, getting leadership in like whatever that sport is. But then you retire and then you find something else that you go further and take it to that next level. You know, you could be doing that multiple times, which is really cool. You could be someone who even ends up having like somewhat of a leadership position with your role connected to kids. So maybe you build and own a daycare. Maybe you become a grandparent and all your kids just have so many kids that you have like a lot of grandkids. And then you're like that, like matriarch in that, or patriarch in that, like whole family system, that whole family tree. Those are ways to look at it as well. So share in the comments, how's this showing up for you? This is an interesting one because Pluto energy isn't really an energy we think of connected to the fifth house. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with a friend, or even joining the newsletter. Okay, so if you have Pluto in the sixth house, particularly if it's in your natal birth chart in the sixth, or this can have an element of truth if you know it's transiting through your sixth. Pluto has been transiting through my sixth in my Placidus chart since like 2008. It's still in the sixth. So I can speak from experience how transformative it has been. But nevertheless, Pluto in the sixth is going to bring transformation, evolution, change, and power, and a level of leadership to the nature of, I'm going to summarize it into two different categories. One is all things to do with the nature of the work you do, like how you spend your time, what you're doing day in and day out, your career path, and then also your health. I mean, we could throw in domestic animals, but you know, for the most part, if you are born with Pluto in the sixth, or it's even transiting the sixth, what you do for work is not going to be the same at retirement as it was for 20, as it was for 30. Like it will go through iterations because something about the way in which your soul wants to grow and evolve, as a byproduct, it's going to change what you choose to do for career. You might be like me and you went to university to become X, Y, or Z. I did that to become an exercise physiologist, did that for 9 years in corporate. But then as Pluto was transiting my sixth house, to my own surprise, I was like, I'm going to make a skincare line. And then to my own surprise, I'm going to be an energy healer. And then I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to make programs. And then while it's still transiting my sixth, another curveball, I'm going to be an astrologer. Like seriously? So that's an example, but it's like at the same time, Pluto can bring sometimes a sense of loss, because it can be like, oh, I wasn't ready, or why did I get fired, or but if there ever is a disruption, think of it as getting something out of the way that was blocking you from your higher state of what you could do in that area. And Pluto wants to give you power to actually have a sense of leadership and love what you do and be impactful and purposeful in what you do for work. And if we're talking about the health component of the sixth house, fear mongers will be like, oh, I'm going to lose my health, or I'm going to get sick, or there's going to be a crisis. And it's like, ultimately, the only reason Pluto is going to be in your sixth house is because it wants you to take empowered control over your health and lifestyle. So if it shows you a health crisis or a challenge, it's to light a fire under your bum to say, what are you going to do? What do you have to figure out to gain your vitality back? So although I don't have natal Pluto in my sixth, it has been transiting since 2008. And it was in 2012, 2013, I started coming to terms with the realization I had developed an alcohol addiction. All my family lineage are alcoholics. Many have died from it. And lo and behold, it snuck up on me. It was no longer fun and games. I realized I was craving it and addicted to it. And when I drink it, I would black out from it. It's how I even got a traumatic brain injury when I turned 29 in my Saturn returns. But anyways, where I'm going with this is I had to come face to face with what I was denying, and that's that I was the reason my health wasn't vital. I was in denial. So Pluto made it very difficult, and I had a tragedy literally happen with a traumatic brain injury and anosmia. I lost my sense of smell from the accident, losing my consciousness. I fractured my skull, all these things from falling down my staircase on my 29th birthday, blackout drunk. So that was a wake-up call. It was also Saturn doing a Saturn return. but Pluto also in the sixth saying you want to gain the most power and leadership over your health. So the way in which it did it is it came in like a wrecking ball and like really brought to my attention, I need to make different lifestyle choices. So I eventually got sober. I'm 8 years alcohol free in a couple of weeks, and I'm the most vital and healthy I've ever been. And Pluto has been helping me see where I can take back my power and improve my health choices, where it helped me improve my nutritional choices, my exercise choices, my lifestyle choices, my drinking choices, my sleep hygiene. Like everything went through a transformation, and all for the better. But if you saw photos of what my health looked like in my 20s, I looked 10 times older than I do now. My face was red and inflamed. I had allergic reactions. I had food sensitivities. I was diagnosed with autoimmune. Like all of these things I had to figure out, and all of it was able to change through me simply choosing to live a healthier lifestyle. And all the incurable things were all curable. So really, really interesting. So again, Pluto in your sixth doesn't mean you're destined for health issues. It means your soul wanted you to learn how to become powerful with your own approach to how you handle your health, and to also power you up with what you choose to do for career, and giving you permission to let go of the old and evolve into something different, even if it might feel uncomfortable to be like, but I've always been a doctor, I've always been a lawyer, I've always been a dentist, but now you want to be something woo-woo. Go for it. You have Pluto saying you will still be successful as long as you honor your authentic truth and what that nudge of your intuition is asking you to do. So share in the comments, how is Pluto in the sixth shown up for you? And is it in your natal? Is it transiting like it is for me? And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing with a friend. Oh, and joining the newsletter. Okay, we made it to the end. Pluto in the seventh house of one-on-one relationships, your relationship with other. This is going to be true if your natal Pluto is in your seventh, and there can also be an element of truth if you know that your Pluto is transiting the seventh. So a lot of you Leo risings, it's transiting the seventh right now. But if you're a late degree Leo and follow Placidus, it will still be hanging back in the sixth house like it is for me. So anyways, Pluto in the seventh means your soul, you pre-incarnation, you wanted to grow and evolve immensely through relationship dynamics. Now, That doesn't mean relationship dynamics have always been easy. It means that you likely have encountered your fair share of like power dynamics or like power plays. And especially if this is like natal Pluto, you probably felt like there was a power imbalance with your first encounters of primary relationships. So, what was out of balance between mom and dad's relationship, or what was out of balance or felt unjust with how mom treated you or how dad treated you? Because it's almost like Pluto's trying to power you up. Pluto's trying to have you gain like a healthy level of power within your relationships, but it's almost like, especially with natal Pluto, you'll have to experience the opposite of what feels empowering to launch that rocket of desire to be like, no, I don't want to feel disempowered in relationship. I want to feel I have my boundaries respected. I want to feel autonomy and authenticity, and I want to feel respected. So there could have been times where you didn't feel any of those things, and that's what's inspired you to live life in a way that ensures you do have those things, learning the art of boundaries and standards and your worth and what you'll accept and what you won't accept. But, Pluto here can also, for some people, not all of you, have like someone who's very domineering in relationships, someone who's narcissistic in relationships. They can have Pluto in the seventh because they can have an imbalance of power where they're putting too much over someone. But someone who's the recipient of narcissistic, like abusive relationships, they can also have Pluto here because, like, it's still suggesting there can be a power struggle, whether you're on this end of the stick of it or this end of the stick on it, like the receiver or the giver. Pluto here suggests like that dynamic could still be happening, but it's, and not for all of you, but if this has been the case for you, or if like mom was narcissistic or dad was, it's wanting you to grow and evolve into someone who does the internal work that comes to know you are enough and you don't have to self-abandon in like a bid for love or in an effort to be accepted by someone who wouldn't be able to see you and know you and accept you healthily anyways because of their own dysfunction. you know um, you'll continue to attract unhealthy relationship dynamics until you have a relationship with you that says, I don't have to self abandon. I do deserve healthy treatment, and knowing where and when to walk away and what red flags are showing up that suggest, oh, that's part of the pattern. And you don't have to participate in compulsion reenactment anymore. That's like our subconscious mind going out, finding a similar energy that was what we experienced in childhood, and then trying to manifest a different outcome with the new person, as if like, oh, if I just try harder, mom or dad would love me better. And it's like, it's not about you trying harder. It's about you seeing you're already enough and no longer perpetuating the pattern of pulling people toward your orbit who are going to only like mirror the dysfunction of what happened in those formative years. Whew, that was like a long, like I felt like I was almost just like channeling that one for someone who needed to hear it. Because obviously that was very specific. And if it wasn't, and if this isn't showing up so much for that with you, this can be not so intense. It can also just be you learning and evolving and growing immensely through like your friendship encounters, through your coworkers, your clients, and through the art of relationship dynamics with all of them, gaining a sense of leadership, like being seen as someone who really can be looked up to, or being seen as a mentor, being seen as a coach, being seen as a counselor, a psychologist. That can be part of this placement because, again, it's powering you up, it's bringing you leadership in relationship dynamics. But particularly if it's a formative Pluto placement, like in your natal chart, it could have been a power imbalance earlier in life that's asking you to fortify your vessel within, see yourself in higher regard, know that you are enough, so that you don't draw in ongoing relationship imbalances with romantic partners. So share in the comments, can you relate to any of this? How is it showing up for you? We would love to hear. And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends, and even joining the newsletter.